Well, you know, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Whoopi Goldberg has dominated The View for years, cutting off guests, bulldozing opposing views, and acting like her opinions are the only ones that matter. But in one shocking moment, all of that unraveled before millions of viewers, and it was all thanks to Karoline Leavitt. Nobody saw it coming. The episode started like any other. Smug laughs, eye rolls, and the usual panel nodding in agreement with their left-leaning agenda.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good.
It was business as usual, with Whoopi leading the charge, convinced that she was untouchable. Then, the conversation took a turn. Before we dive in, hit like, comment, and subscribe. Stay till the end. And suddenly, everything changed. The topic of wokeness came up, a subject The View treats like gospel. It's a concept they defend like their lives depend on it, because in many ways, it does. Feeling untouchable, as always, Whoopi smirked and fired the first shot, pointing at Karoline and saying, "Without wokeness, you wouldn't even have this job." The entire energy in the room shifted instantly. The audience, usually quick to clap along with anything Whoopi says, hesitated. Even Joy Behar, who has built her entire career on mocking conservatives, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. They all knew Whoopi had just made a big mistake. If you like. So far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's continue. Karoline didn't flinch. She didn't fumble her words or scramble for a comeback. She didn't try to defend herself or look for an escape. No, she did something far more powerful. She smiled, a slow, knowing smile that sent a crystal-clear message. "Oh, Whoopi, you just walked straight into a trap." The audience could feel it. Something different was happening. Karoline wasn't about to let Whoopi's smug remarks slide. With icy composure, she responded, her voice unwavering, her tone sharp and confident. She wasn't just about to counter Whoopi. She was about to obliterate her. She calmly laid out cold, hard facts, government reports, taxpayer spending records, and real-world examples of how wokeness had gone from being a social movement to a political weapon. She exposed how billions of dollars were funneled into absurd programs. Gender studies in Guatemala. Whoopi wasn't laughing anymore. Her usual smug grin disappeared, and she shifted in her seat, her hands fidgeting, like she was searching for something to hold on to. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. She was used to guests crumbling under her dismissive attitude, but Karoline wasn't budging. The audience, who normally cheered for Whoopi without question, sat frozen. They could sense what was happening. Even the most loyal fans of The View didn't know whether to clap, laugh, or simply stay silent. Something had changed, and for the first time in years, Whoopi Goldberg had no control over the conversation. Desperate to regain power, Whoopi tried to brush it off. She scoffed, waved a dismissive hand, and tried to steer the conversation in another direction. But it was too late. Karoline wasn't done yet, and she wasn't about to let Whoopi escape unscathed. Karoline continued, her voice unwavering. She pointed out that if wokeness was truly about diversity and inclusion, then why were conservative women like her constantly being attacked? Why were the voices of women who dared to think differently being silenced? Whoopi opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again, still nothing. She had nothing to say, no witty remark, no sarcastic jab, no sharp retort that could get her out of the mess she had created. She had been backed into a corner, and there was no easy way out. Joy Behar, sensing the disaster unfolding before her, tried to jump in with a joke, but it fell flat. Nobody laughed. Nobody cheered. The energy in the room had completely shifted. The audience had just witnessed something they had never seen before. The internet erupted. Within minutes, clips of Whoopi's stunned expression were everywhere. Social media exploded with reaction videos, memes, and endless commentary. Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of shutting down conservatives, had been taken down on her own show, and it was glorious. But this wasn't just about one viral moment. This was about something much bigger. Whoopi had spent years silencing opposing views, mocking anyone who dared to disagree, and using the view as a weapon against conservatives. But this time, she had met her match, and it only got worse for her from there. Karoline didn't stop at exposing the hypocrisy of the view. She took it a step further, calling out the entire mainstream media machine for what it truly is, an industry built on manipulation, division, and fear. She exposed how networks like ABC, who own The View, push an agenda designed to keep Americans divided. Whoopi sat there, speechless. She had lost the crowd. She had lost control of the conversation. And worst of all, she had lost her own confidence. If you like so far, Don, forget to like and subscribe. Let's continue. It was the first time in years that Whoopi Goldberg had been forced to face a truth she couldn't laugh off, dismiss, or overpower. And it was all happening live in front of millions of viewers. ABC executives were in full-blown panic mode. The show's reputation, once seen as a ratings goldmine, was now crumbling under the weight of controversy after controversy. And Whoopi, she had nowhere to run. But this was just the beginning of her downfall. Whoopi Goldberg sat frozen in her chair, her usual arrogance completely shattered. The audience, the panelists, even the production crew, everyone knew they had just witnessed something unprecedented. For years, Whoopi had relied on her dominance over the conversation, her ability to bulldoze guests with snide remarks and dismissive laughs. But this time, it wasn't working. Karoline Leavitt wasn't intimidated. She wasn't scrambling to defend herself. She wasn't backing down. Instead, she was doubling down. With a calm, cutting precision, she went even further, exposing Whoopi and The View for what they truly were, a mouthpiece for radical leftist propaganda disguised as a talk show. Whoopi's face twitched in frustration as Karoline unleashed a wave of undeniable facts. She called out the media's role in intentionally distorting the truth, the way they manufacture outrage to keep people divided, and how The View was nothing more than a tool used to silence conservatives while pretending to champion diversity. The tension in the studio was palpable. The audience, usually so quick to cheer at anything Whoopi or Joy Behar said, didn't know what to do. Were they allowed to react? Could they acknowledge what they were witnessing? It was as if, for the first time, they were realizing that maybe, just maybe, they had been fed lies all along. Whoopi, desperate to regain control, let out a forced laugh, trying to downplay the situation. "Well, we all have opinions," she muttered, waving her hand dismissively. But the problem was, this wasn't just about opinions. This was about truth, and Karoline was winning. Joy Behar, who had been silent for far too long, finally tried to jump in. But instead of making things better, she made them worse. "She's just repeating right-wing talking points," Joy scoffed. shaking her head. "Where are your facts, sweetheart?" Big mistake. Karoline's expression didn't change. Without missing a beat, she pulled out actual government records, taxpayer reports, and receipts, proving that the radical policies Whoopi and Joy defend have nothing to do with helping Americans and everything to do with pushing an agenda. Joy's smirk vanished. She leaned back, crossing her arms, realizing that this wasn't the typical guest they could steamroll. Karoline had done her homework, and they were not ready for it. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the camera crew hesitated. Should they zoom in on Whoopi's humiliated expression, or should they cut to commercial and pray that viewers would forget what just happened? But there was no escaping it. The moment was already making its way to social media, where it would be forever cemented in history as the day Whoopi Goldberg got wrecked on her own show. Clips started going viral immediately. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok exploded with reactions. The hashtags Whoopi owned and Karoline exposed, The View were trending worldwide. People who had never watched The View before were now tuning in, just to witness the carnage. And then came the real fallout. ABC executives were furious. They had spent years protecting Whoopi, allowing her to say whatever she wanted with zero consequences. But now, she had become a liability. Viewers were questioning everything. Advertisers were rethinking their sponsorships. It was absolute chaos. The pressure was mounting. Whoopi knew she was in deep trouble. She tried to laugh it off, but her usual confidence was gone. The woman who once commanded daytime television now looked like someone desperately trying to hold on to a crumbling empire. Karoline, meanwhile, was thriving. Her social media following skyrocketed. She was being invited on major news networks to discuss exactly what had happened and why The View had lost its grip on the public. If you like. So far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's continue. Even former fans of the show were turning on Whoopi. Comments flooded The View's official pages, with people demanding, "Why are you afraid of real debate? And why do you silence conservative women?" The backlash was unlike anything the show had ever faced. And then, the unthinkable happened. Leaks started surfacing from inside ABC, insiders revealing that executives were now seriously considering removing Whoopi Goldberg for good. The network had tolerated her past controversies, but this was different. This wasn't just about Whoopi embarrassing herself. This was about the entire integrity of The View being called into question. If Whoopi couldn't even hold her own against Karoline Leavitt, then what was left of her influence? What was left of The View's credibility? As pressure mounted, Whoopi disappeared from the show for personal time. But everyone knew what was really happening. ABC was scrambling to figure out how to clean up this disaster. For the first time in her career, Whoopi Goldberg was no longer untouchable. Whoopi Goldberg's absence from The View did not go unnoticed. The media tried to spin it as personal time, but the truth was crystal clear. ABC was in full-blown crisis mode. The fallout from her disastrous showdown with Karoline Leavitt was spiraling out of control, and executives were scrambling for damage control. Meanwhile, Karoline was everywhere. She was making headlines, trending on social media, and being invited onto major networks to talk about exactly what went down. She wasn't just another conservative voice being silenced. She was a force to be reckoned with. Fans of The View started questioning everything. The very audience that Whoopi and Joy had relied on for years was now turning against them. The comment sections under The View's official pages were brutal. People were demanding answers. Why can't you handle real debate? And why do you shut down conservative women instead of listening? ABC executives were sweating. Advertisers were getting nervous, and the show's reputation, once seen as untouchable, was now hanging by a thread. They had weathered scandals before, but this was different. This wasn't just a misstep. This was a total exposure of their bias, and they knew it. Then, the lawsuits started piling up. First, Carrie Underwood sued The View for defamation after they smeared her name simply because she performed at a Trump event. That lawsuit had already cost ABC a fortune. Elon Musk, who had been attacked repeatedly by Whoopi and her co-hosts, decided enough was enough. He hit ABC with a devastating lawsuit, exposing how The View had pushed blatantly false claims about Twitter, free speech, and him personally. The final blow came when Karoline Leavitt herself threatened legal action. Whoopi had flat out dismissed her entire career, belittling her achievements as nothing more than a product of wokeness. The cracks in The View turned into full-blown fractures. Executives were now being forced to make a decision they had avoided for years. Was it time to cut Whoopi loose? Rumors started swirling that ABC was secretly looking for her replacement. Names were being floated, new hosts who could restore credibility to the show. But the problem was, Whoopi wasn't ready to go quietly. And slip up, she did. During an attempt to defend herself, Whoopi rambled aimlessly, fumbling through excuses and trying to paint herself as the victim. But the audience wasn't buying it. Every time she tried to deflect, Karoline's words lingered in the air. The truth had been spoken, and there was no taking it back. Even Joy Behar seemed less confident in her usual snarky remarks. The two women, who had spent years controlling the conversation on The View, now looked exposed and desperate. Viewers were tuning out, ratings plummeted. People who once blindly watched the show began questioning everything. They had seen Whoopi lose control. They had seen how The View actively silences opposing voices, and they were done with it. Then came the final announcement. Whoopi Goldberg was taking a break from the show. But the truth was clear. ABC had finally decided to pull the plug. Executives knew that the only way to salvage what was left of The View was to cut out the problem. And that problem was Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi's reign over daytime television was officially over. Her departure sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Some tried to defend her, but even they knew the truth. Whoopi had destroyed herself. No one forced her to belittle Karoline Leavitt. No one forced her to mock and dismiss conservative women. She did that all on her own, and when the moment came for a real debate, she collapsed under pressure. Karoline Leavitt, meanwhile, was soaring. She had gone from being a guest on The View to a national sensation. People admired her composure, her confidence, and her refusal to back down. She proved that conservative voices couldn't be silenced, and she left Whoopi completely humiliated on live TV. In the end, this wasn't just a single moment. It was a turning point. It was proof that the mainstream media's grip on the conversation was slipping. It was proof that people were waking up to the lies, manipulation, and bias that had controlled the narrative for far too long. Whoopi Goldberg thought she was untouchable. She thought she could silence anyone who disagreed with her. But she was wrong. Karoline Leavitt didn't just challenge her, she destroyed her. And now, Whoopi's career will never be the same. If you loved watching Whoopi get wrecked on live TV, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more explosive moments.